All right, good stuff. All right. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Once again, Leverage Nation. My name is Jacob Davis, and today's rock star guest is Mike Little. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Hey Jacob, how you doing? So my name is Mike Little. I guess what people would consider a serial entrepreneur at this point. 14-year Navy veteran, honorably discharged back in 2019. Since then, I've opened 7 real estate firms, PNC insurance brokerage, and also a title insurance company. So I'm married. I have 3 kids. I got 2 dogs. What else you want to know, man? I just recently became an author and then a best-selling author through a company that you're affiliated with, Daniel Gomez and his
That's right.
publishing. So just a lot going on right now, man. But that's me in a nutshell.
Man, yeah, that's a lot of amazing things you got going on. Um, tell us, Mike, what's the project that speaks to you most right now that you're working on? I know you got your hands in a lot of stuff, and
Um,
what's the project that's feeling your fire right now?
the speaking engagements,
Okay.
and honestly, to full disclosure, my father passed away from a heroin overdose last year, and
Mm,
as a result of that, I met my grandfather, who I'd never met before. I'm
wow.
36 and he's 85, and I learned a lot of things. He was a real estate broker. He owned a title company. He was a
Ah,
speaker, author. So um, I just feel like that lane is me operating in my purpose now. I kind of
yeah,
feel like he deserves a show before he goes. He didn't. You know, I'll say this in a way that isn't too brash, but we skipped a generation, right? I'm the generational
sure.
curse breaker, and him being 85, I don't have a lot of time to put this show on, so I had to get it. I had to get it going. You know what I mean?
I love that, man. I
So
love that. Yeah, I
the
love
biggest
that.
project, I guess, would be for me focused on putting a talk together for that stage in September. So
Yeah, you're going to be joining us here in San Antonio, Texas, at Sticker Shock Speaking
correct.
Academy, right?
Yeah,
And as one of the keynote speaker or the keynote speaker, and man, we're excited about that. We're excited to hear you
I am
and
too,
see you
man.
take the
Daniel
stage.
called and he gave me a 20-minute window, and I was like, this is my chance. For me, this is the coming out party as far as speaking on a stage in front of people. But it's kind of funny because you and I had to reschedule so we could do this live, right? And in
Yeah.
that time, I got the message that the book was a bestseller. So it's almost like everything happens for a reason, right?
Amen. Amen, man. That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about your book. Yeah, you mentioned
Okay.
the book that I know you worked with Daniel and our publishing side of the house to get that
Yeah.
going.
So we'll just kind of start how Daniel and I met. We're both in the coach's locker room with Coach Michael Burt, right?
Yeah.
And that's our speaking and writing coach. And we did what was it? Package Your Purpose. It was a retreat at Coach Burt's
Yeah.
Lodge in Christiana, Tennessee. We locked down for 5 days. And man, I started Broker from the Bottom LLC, which is my coaching, writing, and speaking company. I brought
I love
in
that.
one of my best friends of almost 20 years as my partner in that. Um, I created or came up with my concept for the book at that Package Your Purpose retreat. And then I went back for the Michael Burt School of Speaking, and Daniel and I had lunch. And he's like, "You have the idea, you have the concept. Let me show you my template." And we wrote a chapter of the book basically at lunch. And I was like, "You know what? I can." I was like, I can knock this out because I'm a real author. Like I'm not paying somebody else to write my stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I had the concept, I had the idea, I opened the brand, and I have the business for it, right? Because the book is actually an asset to come get on stage, right?
That's right.
Um, but I was like, you know what? I'm locked down in this hotel room for the next 48 hours. No wife, no kids, business partners know I'm out of town. This is the only chance I'm going to get to just crank this thing out. So I was like taking pictures at the airport, sending them to Coach Burt, sending them to Daniel, kind of running my title and my concept by the people that are helping me. So,
That's right.
um,
Yeah.
and then we just cranked it out, man. Daniel published it in 3 weeks, and I just so happened to have a webinar with Eric Thomas scheduled. So I turned that webinar into a National Association of Realtors Settlement Education Day, and I plugged in a book launch in the middle, and then I brought Eric Thomas on for the live. webinar. And that was the coming out party until I just left Michigan and I got to meet ET in person. And then, Daniel asked to put me on a stage, and Eric Thomas invited me to shadow him on tour pretty much whenever I
Yeah.
want. I know, man. I know.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
just been all because me and Daniel decided to crank that book out at lunch that day. But it was Coach Burt and his environment that kind of sparked I got to knock this out.
Yeah.
Uh, and I wanted the first project to be kind of small because I have a bigger project that's coming. And I think that's the one that's going to set the launch pad. But I wanted to have something like before I did that educational day or had Eric Thomas on, I wanted to have something to give to people, right? So that's where I came up with this little guy,
Yeah.
Conquer the Summit of Life, 5 principles to live at the pinnacle, personally and professionally. And what that is that's basically my concept to life hacking is I call it the 5 Ps. So you have your purpose, your passion. I believe you need patience. You're definitely going to need perseverance, but you have to go through all 4 of those phases and master them before you can position yourself to win. So position is the 5th P. And I came up with the concept because I feel like it can apply to everything: business,
Yeah.
life, relationships, money, whatever you're thinking of. Those 5 Ps, they apply, and they apply heavily. But the book is really conceptual in how you apply them. I wrote them in a
Mm.
certain order. I explained them in a certain order. There's pages to reflect and take notes. So it's really supposed to be a self-help guide for anybody that's looking to enhance their life, man. Like I was a foster kid. I was always the new guy. Both of my parents passed away from fentanyl, heroin overdoses. The Navy tried to send me packing. My ex-wife left me 3 times. I am a father. I am a husband. I wasn't raised by my parents and they're both gone, but I'm a successful military veteran and entrepreneur and father and husband, right? So the goal is to help other people get through any of those things,
Yeah.
because I've been through all of those things. And if I can win, then they can win. But they have to have the mindset's got to be right. So I just kind of wanted to put how my brain works on paper and see how people would react to it. And then I got Daniel calling me, telling me I'm #1 bestseller on Amazon list. So, I had no idea it would be that the first time I wrote something, but now I want more. I want a Wall Street Journal bestseller. I want a New York Times bestseller. I want, um, you know, I want it all, man. And it's really not for me. It's to help other people like me. If I can
Yeah.
inspire any military veteran or any foster kid or orphan or somebody whose family is riddled with, substance abuse and penitentiary time, those are the people that I really want to help. So I hope that this little taste, we call this the taste of the ice cream, as Coach Burt would
That's
say.
right. Yeah, that's
That's my
right.
first asset. But my next project is more of a biopic life story. But what it does is I did it that in that order because I wanted people to see what I think, but now they're going to see why I think that way. Right. So now we tell the
Yeah.
bigger story. Now we give them all the juice that ties in why my mind works that way. Um, and hopefully that's one of many, many projects to come. So,
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. It's similar pathway for myself. Um, my first book will be released pretty soon here. It's on pre-sale as well. Get Leveraged, and
yeah, I
it's
saw it
a
on Facebook. I follow you guys, man, all of
y-
you.
yeah, man. And I had 22 years in service with Bear County, locally as a public servant, juvenile probation officer.
Okay,
So I rose 4 ranks to supervisor when I retired after 13 years as a supervisor, but 22 years total with the department.
nice.
And but the thing is, in government or even in public service, right? We reach this cap, right? And
Yes,
we have this
absolutely.
mindset where like this is our worth, right? Believe even though we didn't realize it, like this is what is embedded in us. Oh, I'm going to work 30, 40, 50, 60 years, as a county employee, and life
Right.
is good. I'm going to have retirement. I'm going to have benefits. But man, we're meant to have so much more. So
I agree.
one of the things you mentioned, Mike, is that you joined partners with one of your friends of many, many years. I like to throw it out there all the time that Daniel and I go back to seventh grade, man. Uh,
Wow.
we we go we go deep, man. So many folks that have heard his journey, I've seen his journey. Like I've
Yeah.
seen all of that happen, and I never knew that we were meant to be right here at the tender age of 50 and 51, right?
Right.
But
It's incredible, man. Because my partner that I brought into the broker from the bottom
yeah,
side, the speaking and writing,
yeah,
um, when we met in the Navy, I was like 18, he was like 21 or something, or 20 or
yeah,
something like that. But he was from Detroit. I was from Dayton, Ohio. He
yeah,
knew how I came up, in the system
sure.
and didn't have my parents and stuff. And he actually is the person that gave me the broker from the bottom moniker when I opened my
It's a
first real
beast.
estate office. And
Yeah,
he's the
that's
one that hooked me up with an attorney in New York to trademark those intellectual property rights. And now
nice.
here we are 4 years later. We built a whole business off of it, and we have a published book, and I'm getting booked for speaking engagements. And
Yeah,
um, it's just pretty incredible, man, to watch it all come full circle. And then he moved his family of six from New York down here to Virginia Beach. I just sold him a house, and he lives in my neighborhood 2 blocks away.
man, that's awesome.
So
Yeah,
just incredible stuff, man.
yeah.
He's also the one. He got me Eric Thomas too. So
Wow.
shout out to Tim Lewis. He's been super instrumental in me standing up my speaking, writing, and coaching business. Him and Coach Burt together, and then I met Daniel in between, and here we go. Um,
Yeah. That's awesome, and that's amazing. Yeah, Daniel had been pouring into me. I mean, we've been friends, like I said, many years, but when he got into the motivational speaking and personal development and growth field and started following that pathway for his life, he would speak into me. I had, man, I
yeah,
was, the county employee, but I had like five side hustles, going on, all kinds
right,
of
right, right,
different
right, right.
things, right? Like my mindset was like, I'm gonna make this money, but then I'm gonna be a millionaire by five side hustles. Well,
Yeah,
that's never going to happen, right? You got to
can't. You
fine
need some
tune one
focus.
thing, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he would tell me and tell me and tell me. And here we are, like almost 10 years later, or whatever it is. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I
no
get it
doubt.
now.
Right.
Uh,
So I guess that's the
yeah.
thing for me. You asked me earlier, like what am I focused on?
Yeah.
So honestly, man, the real estate firms are so successful and we have such a strong leadership team and we have
Sure.
a great admin staff that, I can pursue my other dreams and goals and I know that the company is going to run.
Yeah.
We do a
Nice.
business meeting every Tuesday. We talk a lot daily, but I have a great team, a lot of great leaders, you know, that allows me to go do the training in Nashville with Coach Bird. It allows me to sit down and write that book. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the title company is fully autonomous. I don't work there at all. So shout out to Matt Cantrell and Sarah Truxell and Bobby Bryant. We just have good people, good staff, good employees. Uh, so that allows me to focus on what I'm doing right now. So
Nice.
on the broker from the bottom side, we have the published book. Now it's the bestseller, but I also already have 5 annual contracted coaching clients as well. So
Let's go.
yeah, it's going really good, man. I just set up my first. It's called Skills at Sea and Sunset. So I have a good friend and mentor that has a boat. I'm going to take all my coaching clients out for a few hours out here in Virginia Beach off the coast with
Nice.
one of my personal mentors and just lock in for a few hours and enjoy what we have here, which is coastal living. I probably haven't taken advantage of that because of my time in the Navy. I was always
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to be on the water, but it's different.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on the water, but now I don't have somebody telling me what to do, right? Like, so
Yeah. The
it's
time
different.
spent's different.
But to be able to do that, and I'm only doing things like that because I see things like Michael Burr and Daniel and the things that they're doing, and they're using their resources and their assets to influence people.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm doing now is just helping people. That's all I feel like I made it. I'm very happy in my marriage. I'm very happy with my relationship with my children. My businesses are doing great. So now I just want to help other people do that.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's the key, right? Is that I was missing for so many years is like let that one let that one thing, just grow and grow and grow so that's the key right there. And then you can branch off from there. And
Exactly. Yeah,
you know
that's a
when
great
uh,
point.
when I met Coach Burt, Daniel and I flew to Tennessee last year at the end of the year, and I think it was Reset or one of the events, and it just made so much sense when he put it on the board. and he talked about the wheelhouse of your product, right, and
He really
everything in the
teaches you,
center.
man. He
And
really
man,
teaches you. It's
he,
incredible.
he and on that plane trip is when Daniel and I talked about me joining the company and helping him elevate the company to the next level. And it was just
Yeah,
time, and for it was a part of where I was. So prior, I had spent 4 years in the real estate industry here as well, man. Now I was not a
yeah,
real estate agent, but I took on the role of vice president of a brand new, fresh startup company, independent brokerage,
yeah.
and we grew pretty fast, man. We hit the Inc. 5000 in the first 3 years, number 188 in 2023 in the U.S., number 22 in Texas, and number one in San Antonio. And I could
That's
tell you,
great.
man, the best thing about that experience, I'm going to tell it right here on my show today. The best thing of that experience was that the broker didn't take care of me and he didn't pay me right. So I was blessed enough to join Daniel Gomez and understand my self worth.
Love it. I love it.
That's fire
So
right there, man.
it is,
That
but
that
that
that's
also is
huge.
like a lot of the same reason that being a successful real estate professional that you would open your own firm, right?
That's right.
Um,
That's
so I
right.
opened my own firm because I wanted to treat people differently. I wanted to do things differently.
Yes.
I wanted to treat clients better. I wanted to treat veterans better. I wanted to deliver a higher level of excellence.
Yeah.
Let's really take care of these people versus just trying to get commission checks out of them.
That's right, man. That's
That was
right.
very important to me, but it's been a key component in our success. We actually, I'm the co-founder and principal broker of the number one Iron Valley real estate franchise in the country. So,
Nice. Love
um,
it.
and subsequent of that, we have several other entities where myself and the leadership team have groomed other people to be team leads, and then brokers and owners, and we license the training program, and we have certified instructors,
Yeah.
and we have certified coaches at the company, and we're just providing all the things that we always wanted as agents, but now
Yeah.
we're in charge of it, right? So it's been a great journey. But again, we wouldn't be able to do any of that. Like our first employee ever at this company is still here, and she's the director of operations now. You know what I mean? So
Nice. I love it.
shout out to Lori Serrano. These are all the people that helped me come be on a podcast with you, right? They're running the company right
That's
now.
right.
So
That's right.
they deserve all the love in the world. My wife, my kids, super supportive of everything I do now. And
Yeah.
it's just great, man. It's great. When I said, hey, I got to go to San Antonio, she's like, you better go. That
I love
support
it.
is it's clutch, man. Because I travel
It
to
is.
Nashville to train with Coach Burt, and I travel to Michigan and train with Jeff Glover and Kathy Schweitzer, and I'm traveling to Florida to do a retreat with Coach Burt and his wife with my wife, and I'm coming to San Antonio to speak. So I'm
Yeah.
all over the place, right? So the support is paramount, and I'm very appreciative of the staff, my leadership team, my family, people like yourself and Daniel who just reach out and lift people up.
Yeah.
I like to think this all came from Daniel was in a room when I got an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and I know what I bring to the table, and I'm sure it was powerful for everybody. But I just want to get better. And he was one person in the room willing to give me some criticism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he does get paid to speak, and I appreciated his feedback. And then we built the relationship of writing the book, and it's just all going well, man. I just don't want to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I hear you, man. I'm excited, to connect with folks like yourself, and just being in this space. It's a whole new place, and life is good, man. We're doing
Yeah,
the retreat,
no
like
doubt.
you said, as well on the water, and we've had some amazing breakthroughs. We've seen some amazing connections as well.
Yeah, I see that
Um,
though. What is that you guys do? The writers retreat on the lake?
Yeah, so we do, for authors or aspiring writers, because there's some folks that just write, and then there's some folks that it feeds their soul to write. You know what I mean? There,
Yes,
there there's a component with it, but then there's some folks that are like writing with a purpose. I'm gonna write because I want to write this book, and I want
correct.
to get this message out there or get this
Yeah,
tool out there for somebody.
no
You know,
doubt.
so Daniel recently purchased the lake house, and as a company, man, we're super blessed to have that, to be able to help people. We've made some
Yeah,
breakthroughs there, and had some good
I
times.
might have to take a trip, man. I might have to take a trip.
Yeah, yeah, you got to come see us, man. You got to jump in,
Well,
hop
because
in,
I
and
do have a couple concepts, man, but as you can imagine, I am very busy, right? So
yep,
That's why it
That's
was
the
so
whole
easy to crank the book out at Coaches, because I didn't have any distractions, right? So
exactly.
if I could get away, I'm sure I could come up with a couple of things, and they all kind of branch from the book that I already wrote. And that's why you
Yeah,
write it, right? You come up with a
that's
concept,
right.
like you said, writing with a purpose. Like, I'm not journaling here.
Sure,
I'm
sure,
I'm
sure.
writing concepts to assist other humans in getting to the next level, right?
That's right.
But I didn't learn any of that, so I was working with Coach Burt. When you hear
Yeah.
things like, what's your demonstrated capacity? Oh man, hold on a minute. That's a
Now
lot of
you're
stuff.
forcing me to think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had me
Uh,
do something called a comparative analysis,
yep.
where I had to look at people in this lane that I kind of wanted to model myself after, right? And for me, it was like Ed Milet, Eric Thomas, Coach
Yeah.
Burt, Jim Rohn. That's like
Yeah.
it
The
sounds
greats.
like a
Yeah.
crazy combination, but that's really me. I have the
Yeah.
sales, I have the military service, but I also have the tough upbringing, and I have the articulation skills to get the message across, right? So it's like the perfect storm. And then you meet somebody like Coach Burt, who's just like, well, if you do it like this and you flip this here, and then you're like, oh, I got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
You
He
know?
makes it seem so simple, right? I mean,
Yeah,
because
intentional congruence. I never heard that before in my life. And then I realized in 10 minutes that I had been doing it my whole life. I'm like,
yes.
hold on, now I'm aware of it. And so it's been great, man. Hiring coaches is the best thing I ever did for myself or my business.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So I wanted to make a point. So one of the things you mentioned, Mike, was, your time in real estate. You guys have been very successful, and you've helped a lot of realtors. My time in real estate, I realized, like, a lot of realtors get into the business and they have a misconception about what it's about or what it's gonna, what
Yeah,
it's gonna
yeah,
entail, right? They're like, oh, I
for
get to
sure.
work whatever hours I want to, and it's
Oh
gonna be
man,
really easy, and I'm gonna make a shit ton of money, right?
realtor
It's
mistake 101, man.
yeah, but I feel like, your book, which I know will help many, many people of different, workplace, whatever it may be, whatever they're trying to do in entrepreneurship or anything, and just in life, like you said, in general. But I feel like there's some elements in there that really would speak to the realtors that are just kind of misguided, because there's a lot of them, right? Like, we know
Yeah.
that industry is full of them
So
because of the
yeah,
traditional setup, you know?
absolutely. So I train. I have the license training program through Jeff Glover and Glover U. It's called Peak Performance Elite Sales Training.
Yeah.
And in that training, I have my 8 peak mindset tips, and number 8 is clients first, checks come later. Uh,
Yes.
and the reason behind that is because people are not operating in their purpose, which is the
Right.
first P of my book, right?
Yeah.
And they're not doing it with passion, which is the second P in my book. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying there is, you cannot do this at a high level if it's not your purpose and you're not doing it with passion.
Man, that's fire.
Yeah. So, but that's my
Yeah.
book. That's the whole concept, right? So,
Yeah.
but that's the reality of it. Like, I was in the military for 14 years. I was really good at it,
Yeah.
but I was tired, man. I wasn't happy.
Mhm.
I had hit a ceiling.
Yep.
Nobody wanted to deal with the energy that I still had to just keep going and going
Yeah.
and going, right?
Yeah.
And then you have people that'll hate on you and try to hold you back, and it's just very
Yeah.
political and bureaucratic.
Yeah.
So I had to let myself loose from those shackles and move on and bet on myself. Because although I was always passionate about everything, I'm that way because I come from nothing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I could operate in my purpose with my passion, which for me, my father passed away. I met my grandpa, and I'm like, you know what? I've been saying my whole life that I'm going to tell my story. The time is now.
Let's
And I
go.
just made
Yeah.
a decision, with Coach Burt's help and with Daniel's help and the support of everybody around me. I said, I'm going to press a book, and that's something
Yeah.
that Daniel did for me. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome when it came to being an author.
Sure.
Uh, and I really couldn't identify why, because if you go check my social media or my Facebook or, any of my paperwork from the military or any of the sailors that work for me, or even my listing write-ups for houses for sale, I write.
Yeah.
I'm a writer. I'm always writing. I'm
Right.
always storytelling. But I had to have a moment where Daniel, he just told me, he said, don't psych yourself out of this, man. You're supposed to do this kind of thing,
Yeah.
and he only listened to me speak one time, and he knew, this is what you need to do. And he told me the same thing he told you. I'm going to pour into you because I believe in you.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
And that helped me ultimately believe in myself, which I'm a pretty confident guy. But
Yeah.
when you're putting out a message to potentially millions of people, you think about, you know, what's going to be the negative connotation? How are people going to react?
Yeah.
My book's only 60 pages, man. I thought maybe it's too short. Um, but I was wrong. I've had nothing but positive feedback. Coach Burt and Daniel kind of got me through that. Like, no, this is a great concept. Don't worry about how long it is. Just get it out there, you know.
Yeah.
And they were right, and I'm glad I listened. So here we are.
I love it, man. I love it. Man, it's been great talking with you, Mike. So we'll see you here in San Antonio. That's
Absolutely.
one of the major things going on. You've been getting booked,
Yep.
scheduled to speak at other conferences and events and things like that. I wanted to ask, man, without going into too much detail, but I mean, you recently had the opportunity, you leveraged the opportunity to meet with one of the greats, right?
Oh yeah,
And, and
absolutely.
and sit down and mastermind and maybe pick his brain a little bit. I don't know. Could you
100%.
just could you just tell the audience a little bit about that without, like I said,
Yeah,
you
no
know?
doubt, man. Absolutely. So the fifth P of my book is position, right? And if you
Yeah.
think about position, it's the same thing as leverage.
Yep.
All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So I use leverage all the time. So what
Okay.
happened was my friend that is now partner and broker from the bottom LLC, he's from Detroit, Michigan. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
My coach on the real estate side, not the speaking and writing, that's Coach Burt, but on
Yeah.
the real estate side, I coach with Glover U. Their CEO is my business mastery coach. Her name's Kathy Schweitzer. But
Okay.
Jeff Glover owns the company, right?
Got you.
And he had booked Eric Thomas for their summer conference, the Live on Real retreat.
Okay.
So when they did that, I attended another conference of his that he had me as a panelist on the leadership panel.
Yeah.
And when I left there, right after that, I came to Coach Burt's for some training, right? And that's when I went to the retreat. So these
Yeah.
things are all happening kind of at the same time. My boy's back in touch with me. He's somehow got in touch with Eric Thomas. Jeff Glover, where Kathy Schweitzer is the CEO, who's my coach, goes and hires Eric Thomas. And here I am sitting in the middle, like, hold on, this
Wait
is
a minute.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my buddy got in touch with Eric Thomas and his agent. We were able to book him for a webinar. Okay. I don't have 150,000 for in person yet. Right. So we
Yeah. Yeah.
did, we negotiated a lesser price tag for, we did a webinar, but we
Nice.
negotiated in a meet and greet, and things of that nature. So I actually sold my paid off car to book ET for a webinar. And then I took that webinar and said, you know what? I just went to Jeff Glover's event and they did 20 ways to win the NAR settlement because the National Association of Realtors has been dealing with settlements it's been in the news everywhere. And
Yeah.
then I was like, wait a minute, I can finish this book. Daniel,
Yeah.
can you do this book in less than 30 days? And he's like, absolutely. But
Yeah.
you have to write it. And I said, okay. So it kind of put me against the wall, right? So I finished the book and I tell my partner, Tim, I said, hey, we're not just going to do a webinar with Eric Thomas. We're going to do a live watch party. We're going to sell tickets. We're going to provide food and drinks. And before we bring him on, we're going to do free education for the realtors in the area on the NAR settlement. And in
Yeah.
between there, I'm going to have another friend of 20 years interview me and we're going to do a book launch.
Yes.
So it really just kind of spiraled from I went and sold my paid off Benz. So we're doing this, you know?
Yeah. Love it,
Um,
man.
and then that turned into obviously I went to the Glover U event where ET was a keynote and we were having our meeting prior to him going on because we negotiated that, right?
Right. Right.
And through that, I run into a guy named Sean French who also knows Daniel and he runs like a top podcast in the world, the Determined Society.
Yeah.
And we're just chopping it up. And then ET rolls up. We hung out for like an hour and a half, little fireside chat.
Yeah. I saw
Um,
that.
and then out of nowhere, he's like, Mike, you know where I got to go? And I was like, what? I mean, yeah, I know the front way, but we're going to have to deal with all these people. So I was kind of put in a position to get him where he was going. And that wasn't necessarily the plan. He had offered for me to shadow him in the future. I didn't know he was going to drag me backstage, because I was there. I brought 20 of my agents to this event and, Jeff Glover and Kathy Schweitzer and their whole team, this is their event. They've paid for him to be the keynote. And I
Yeah.
didn't want it to look any certain type of way. But yeah, man,
Right.
he basically had me escort him backstage, and thankfully Jeff and his team are very understanding, and I got to hang out for a little bit. I didn't stay back there the whole time. You know, he went and did a VIP lunch and stuff with Jeff and his team, but I did get to pick Eric Thomas's brain face to face. I asked him, you know, what kind of microphone do you like to wear? What are you doing with your slides? Why are you eating certain things before you go on? You know,
Really?
a lot of people were kind of starstruck, whereas I was really in student mode, you know.
Man. Yeah.
Um, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, man. But the coolest part really is my friend of almost 20 years from Detroit is the reason that we even got in touch with this guy. And then it just so happens that Jeff Glover is from Detroit and books the guy. So for me, I look at things like everything happens for a reason.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I had been watching and studying Eric Thomas amongst many others, Jim Rohn,
Sure.
Ed Milet. You know, I have my list because this is something that I love, and I can appreciate when people are just pouring back into everybody else with their success. And he was the most humble, down to earth person I've probably ever met, man. I mean, he came in a t-shirt, a trucker cap, sweatpants, and Yeezy Crocs,
I love it, man.
and he went
So
out there
genuine.
and killed it, man. He absolutely killed it. Um, when I crept up on him and started asking him questions, he was all about it. He's kind of in that stage where he's pouring into
Yeah.
other people, like, for instance, Inky Johnson, Jeremy
Oh, yeah.
Anderson. You
Another
know,
huge one. Yeah.
he's down in Atlanta going crazy basically every weekend.
Yeah.
They got the Next Level Speaker Academy there, just like Daniel's got the Sticker Shock Speaking
Yeah.
Academy, you know. So who knows? I might find myself in Atlanta, coming to Texas, then going back to Tennessee, and then popping back up to Virginia Beach, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm ready for the journey, man. I'm built for it. You know, everything kind of that I talked about or said could be real is where we're creating it. Um, so I'm just gonna keep going. But yeah, Eric Thomas was phenomenal, man. He even ended up his videographer didn't show up, so he hired my videographer and photographer for the day.
Nice.
Absolutely incredible experience, man. And again,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have had that opportunity if it wasn't for my partner, Tim Lewis, if it wasn't for Jeff Glover and his whole team booking him. I just so happened to be going to the event because I coach with them. I'm coached by them, right? So
Right. Right.
shout out to all of them for giving me an opportunity, but I'll also pat myself on the back for taking advantage of it.
That's the key.
That's kind of my specialty. Like, I don't just position myself, I capitalize on it, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have to, man, because you're only going to get one shot. I mean, how many shots are you going to get to talk to Eric Thomas,
Man.
right?
Yeah.
You know?
You know that's what I was talking about with the team this morning, right? Daniel and us were talking recently about 3.7 seconds. You got like 3.7 seconds to make a decision, right?
Yes.
Something pops up, go, right? It's take the action, right? Many people get stuck in contemplation, right? Many
Yep.
people get stuck in analysis paralysis, but
Oh, stop it. I just said that all week in my training class because I had a very high analytical in the class, and everything was a question.
Oof,
Everything was a
man.
reason that you can't. And I'm like trying to break that mental barrier for you.
Yeah.
Don't have limiting
Yeah.
beliefs. You know,
Yeah.
you can do
That's
anything you want to. Anything.
yeah,
Anybody listening to this, you could do whatever you want in this life.
that's right. Absolutely.
Like,
That's right.
that's just a fact, man. You want a saltwater in-ground pool, you can go get one. You want a beautiful
Yep.
wife, you can find one. The thing is, it's the person you have to become to go get those things. That's
That's
where
right.
people are slipping up. You know, they don't have the work ethic that matches their taste. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and that's okay. We all learn. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but if you want it, you got to go get it, man. Nobody's gonna give it
You
to you.
gotta go get it. Yeah, you got. I was listening to Eric Thomas this past weekend a little bit, and one of the things he was saying was like, if I get up at 4:30, that's my drive. I get up at 4:30 because I'm hitting it, right? I'm going, I'm
Yeah.
going, I'm going. He said, and this young guy starts getting up at 2:30, right? Well, then what is he gonna start doing? He's gonna start getting up at 2:30. Like, okay, because it's the competitive side, but also it's the drive. Like, you got to take the action, and that's where so many people fall short.
100%. Coach Burt, actually. So that's something else, man. I'm a high executioner and implementator, right?
Yeah.
So, implementation is kind of my thing. If anybody spoke to Coach Kathy from Glover U, she would tell you when she gives me an assignment, I take it very serious, and I truly try to execute, to the best
Yeah.
of my ability. Same thing with Coach Burt. And before I had my event with Eric Thomas, who do you think I called? I called
Yeah.
Coach Burt. I say, hey
Coach Burt.
man,
Yeah.
what do I got to do? How should I talk to him? What? Actually, no, that's a lie. He called me. That's how I know he's a great
Yeah.
coach. He called me.
Yeah.
He said, Mike Little, I know tomorrow's a huge day for you. You got any questions? Absolutely,
Bro,
coach, I
that's
do, because you do this for a living and I don't yet, right? So,
yes.
and I asked him some stuff, and because of how he structured my conversation, when I went and did the webinar with ET, I closed out our conversation, but I also made an offer. I embedded. I took my shot. That's why
Yeah.
the invitation was there to come shadow. You see what I mean? So I
Yeah.
wouldn't even have had that opportunity unless I spoke to Coach Burt and got training on it prior to going on the set, basically, that I created. See?
Love it,
So,
man. Yeah, that
uh,
you mentioned like the slides and the different things and the different, actions
yeah,
that
how
he
do you like
takes
your
and stuff.
clicker? What
You
microphone do you
know,
prefer? Like, tell
yeah.
me. I want to know.
hmm Yeah. And what's the positioning, right? And so many things. It reminds me of like Tim Grover talking about, Jordan and, Kobe and how
Oh, yeah,
they had different mannerisms and different things that were intricacies, right? And but there was a reason for every single thing. So
yeah,
learning from the greats, those are great questions, man, that you asked Eric Thomas. Was, you know, the purpose behind them, and so you understood, right? And
correct.
then we learn from that as we see these folks doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I used Coach Bird again. Daniel called and booked me for the thing for this speaking academy, right?
Yeah,
First person I contacted was my coach. I said, Coach, I have an opportunity. I need to craft a talk. I want to know if I can walk the room, if I can see the crowd. I want to know what kind of microphone I'm going to have. I want to know what message the venue wants from me. I want to
yeah,
know so many things, right? I wouldn't know any of that if I wasn't getting trained by one of the best in the world,
that's right.
you know.
That's right.
But you gotta. I'm paying that individual. I'm
Right.
going to take advantage of that. I invested in myself, you
Yeah,
know.
that's right.
And that's where people fail. I think a lot of the times is using that leverage, and a lot of times it's leverage that you personally created or spent money on too, and
Yeah,
people aren't going all in. You know what I mean? I'm an
yeah.
all in kind of guy. So
Yeah, I love that, man. Well, this is usually the part of the show where I'll ask about you talking about a leveraged opportunity or something you use, but we've been talking about it, which is amazing, which is really cool,
I mean,
you
I
know.
can give you probably the biggest one though, if you want a
Yeah,
full
let's go.
transparency, man.
Let's go.
I think the biggest one was I've capitalized on my personal struggle as a child, but also my military experience in that network. So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Virginia Beach is the number 3 real estate market in the world.
Wow.
It's that way because there's 17 military installations within a 70-mile radius.
Mm.
Therefore, our market is slightly isolated in comparison to the rest of the country. So I knew a long time ago, because I did real estate part-time while I was active duty in the Navy for a decade.
Okay.
I knew the whole time that I was just building and building and building. And when I chose to leave, I knew I was going to sell real estate in Virginia Beach because all markers turned to this could be a very successful business area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I leveraged my entire real estate, like my whole military career, to build the real estate career. And now I'm leveraging all my struggles for my writings, my teachings, and my speaking.
Yeah,
So
man. I
those
love
are my
that.
two major ones in life that I think I was able to take something that could have been pretty bad and turn it
Yeah.
into something pretty great. So
Yeah, I love that. Well, before we wrap up here, Mike, I wanted to touch base on one thing, man. I know you're a car guy also, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
man, how long have you had that Chevelle? That's a
All right.
that's a
So
beauty,
first of
man.
all, yeah,
You know,
I
I've
used
had
to
a lot
build.
of cars, and let me tell you, I've had a lot of cars, man. And the one that got away, right? There's always that one that got away.
Yeah.
Many people would say, many people I come across, I had a 72 Stingray, 454 Muncie four
Okay.
speed when I was about 19, 20 years old. And
Great
I
car.
loved that car, man. Great
Yeah.
car, 454 big block, right? And many people see me and they're like, man, you should have never got rid of that car, right? But honestly, the car that I really feel I should have never got rid of was the 68 Chevelle. So when I saw you post about your Chevelle, your Malibu, right? The car, I was like, oh man, he's a car guy too.
Yeah. So in high school, I used to work on hot rods, um,
Okay.
and I always wanted a Chevelle since then.
Yeah.
But I had some things. It had to be numbers matching. It had to
Yes.
have the bench seat, and it had to have three on the tree. Um, and I also wanted at least a 396, right? So
Yeah.
I found all of those things. It took me about 3 years to find a numbers matching SS Chevelle with a 396 with the three on the tree and the bench seat.
Yeah.
It took me 3 years to find it, and then when I found it, I looked at probably three or four, like traveling, different
To go.
places. And
Yeah.
when I saw this one, the price was so much better than anything else I had seen. I went ahead and bought it. So I've had it since I want to say November of last year.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, man,
Beautiful car,
I
man.
love that
Beautiful
thing.
car, man.
So, but it stays in the garage most days. But like we're sponsoring the biggest car show in the city at the end of the month, so I'll
Yeah.
pull it out for that.
Nice.
Or if my coaching clients earn a ride in it, or if my son, obviously, if my kids want to go, we're going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I tell everybody like, oh, that's a nice car. Yeah, I worked 35 years for it.
That's right.
You
That's right.
know, like
Yeah.
I the narrative of oh must be nice, you can get away from me. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Anybody that has something nice, they're doing the work behind it. Okay. And if
Yep.
they're not, they're probably going to lose it soon.
That's right.
You
Easy
can only
come,
fake
easy
it for
go.
so long. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, Mike, it's been amazing talking with you today. So, how can somebody get in touch with you if somebody today on the show, if somebody heard something that really resonated with them, if they want to get with you, for your book or for coaching or anything you got going on, man. Maybe they want to buy a house out there and they need to get with your
yeah,
team.
no doubt, man.
How can they reach you, Mike?
So the best way to reach me personally, you can go to brokerfromthebottom.com. People will see my coaching packages there. Whatever book I have
Okay.
going on for sale is there. My upcoming events will be there. And if they email info@brokerfromthebottom, the back end, my team will reach out and schedule a discovery call. But also, if you just check me out on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook,
Okay.
you can look for Michael Little. But Broker from the Bottom really is
Is
what
we'll link you there.
it's the moniker. I'm Broker from the Bottom on Instagram. I'm Broker from the Bottom on TikTok. But Broker from the Bottom is actually a real business. It's trademarked. It's registered, and Broker from the Bottom owns all the rights to my writing and my speaking and all that stuff. So
Got you. Yeah. All right, man. Well, it's an amazing time talking with you, and I look forward to seeing you here in San Antonio, Texas, very soon at Sticker Shock,
I'm coming,
and
brother. I'll be there.
I'll definitely see you in Tennessee because we'll be there too for Coach Bert's Activate event.
Activate conference.
I'm
Daniel's speaking. Yeah, man. I'll be there. I'm bringing my top realtor and also my business partner and Broker from the Bottom. So it'll
good
be a good
stuff.
time.
Well, we look forward to connecting with you then. So,
I love it, man.
one
Thanks for having me on. Tell Daniel I said hi.
of course, I sure will, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely,
So,
brother. Thank you. I appreciate it.
once again, guys, my name is Jacob Davis, and this is Leverage Nation, and that's Mike Little, broker from the bottom. Get with him.
Peace.